What is going on? I am the wiredmartian, and today I'm going to share with you why I don't use ORMs. If you don't know what an ORM is, it's an entity relationship mapper, I think. It's basically a thing that hides your database away and allows you to write code without ever thinking about your structure of your database in that much detail. So the way it works is, for an example, if you're writing C#. So for an example, if we go to this entity models, a while ago when you were writing .NET, it would bootstrap and give you this template. And this template came with something called an application database context. Basically, when you run something called migrations, it would create the database, including its tables, based on whatever you put here. So these would be the tables. So whenever you defined these tables, for an example, the transaction table, you'd have to specify the ID for that table and its attributes. And whether, for an example, if you want to say the transaction ID is a GUID and it's auto-generated and it is the key for this table. This allows you to do something like this. For an example, if you want to add a transaction entry to your database, you just define the transaction object and put the data that it needs, call this add, and then commit the changes. And that's all you ever did. You never had to worry about writing a SQL query. So even when you're getting transactions, you would do something like this, like, okay, for an example, I want to get transaction, I want to get the first one, or I want to get now. And if you want to update, similar thing, basically. And if you want to delete, and so on and so forth. This is good for a very small project. So fast forward, when I was in varsity, this was the only thing I ever knew what to do. So I started writing a project in C# because I wanted to be relevant in the market when I started advertising myself. I wanted to have a project that I could say, this is what I've built and I am useful as a developer, even though I don't have industry experience. Here are the things that I could do. So I started building this music streaming platform. I'm just going to play a couple of videos of what that project looked like.
Far away, so call the mainland from the beach. So parties now. Never will.
Okay, so that's what it looked like, and you could play music, you could edit administrative part, you can upload music, you can do all sorts of things, but those are the only archives that I have of it, because that was a long time ago. I think it was in 2017. I built this using Visual Studio, and at the time Visual Studio could only run on a Windows machine. I don't know if that's still the case. If you're using a different OS, you had to use something like MonoDev, and that's really painful to me. I had an incident a long time ago with Windows, and I stopped using it when I kind of put a hold on this project. By the way, this project had an API, and what I did was I wanted to have an app for it. So I built it using Ionic 2 with Angular 5 at the time. So it was with the .NET Web API. And these are some of the endpoints that I used. And this is what it looked like. As you can see, I'm a huge fan of Gorillaz and of As I Lay Dying. Not as much as before, but I used to listen to them a lot. So about 3 years ago, as you could see from the commit here, I picked up this project because I hadn't worked on. I just left it at some point and focused on being an employee after being a student, after I pretty much achieved what I wanted from it. I picked it up and tried to run it, and I could not. I couldn't run the migrations. And I remember the last time I actually managed to run it, I had to tweak something specific on the migrations file, but I forgot what it was. Also, the fact that I think I was trying to run these migrations on a Linux machine kind of throw things off a little bit. For the longest time, I could never get this project to run. And I think that was pretty much the last time I used an ORM. Now, if I want to build something with C#, obviously I use something cross-platform like .NET from the core. And also with my Piggy project, I use .NET Core. I use .NET Core with Depper. Because with Depper, you can actually write queries. You can write queries, you can call stored procedures, you can do all sorts of things, which is cool. It makes you be aware of your database. You are aware of what your database structure and schema looks like, and then you can write your queries as such. If, for example, I take this project and I want to run it on a different place, for example, I would say, cool, I've defined the tables, I've defined the scripts. I'm just going to create a database, create tables, and then try and use it. And that's it. I don't have to run that in code. Even when I started using Go with my What's a Menu project, I used the Go MySQL package. And it works similar to Dapper, and it allows you to write queries, and it allows you to write stored procedures. So you can sort of distinct the layers between your code and your database, which I think is important. So yeah, I don't use ORMs anymore for that reason, because of that incident, basically, or this incident. And also, as I've grown as a developer, I need context of my database. I need my database decoupled from my actual code. I need my database to exist outside of my code. For an example, I need my code to just interact with my database, but it shouldn't take charge of it in the sense that it controls what the structure of my database is, as what an ORM would do. And also in your code, when you're using an ORM, and it's a big project, you end up defining a whole lot of models, because if you want to interact with a table, you need to define it as part of your models, and you need to define its relation to other models. It's good in the sense that whenever you read the code, everything is in one place, but it probably works for some people, and I'm sure there's a way around it. But whenever I've used it, it ended up with me a whole lot of models. I have no context of what my database structure looks like. My code defines my database. And if my code isn't running, I don't know what my database looks like or what is it supposed to look like. And oftentimes in C#, in .NET framework, whenever you ran your application, it will try to run migrations, which I thought was like a dangerous thing. That whenever you deploy your code and then you run it, first it tries to update or scans your database to say, are my models or migrations up to date with this current database that I'm about to sync with? And if it's not, it would crash and say, well, it looks like your database has changed since the last time you touched these models that are currently in code. So you need to update this, or maybe you need to drop something somewhere. And there was a way you could force do it to say, well, if the database has changed, just run the schema. Trust that whatever I have defined in code is what I want my database structure to be. And I think at some point it meant if it was about to drop a table, it would say, cool, I'm just going to drop this table because I don't know about it. So yeah, it was kind of a weird thing. It's cool, it gives you power, but yeah, that's why I don't use it. Yeah, anyway, thank you for listening.